And so I'm going to my first pod this week for Riftbound. I am going to as much casual events, Nexus Night, competitive events this week because I am lucky enough to work for a company that is giving us a whole week of paid time off. I don't live in the US, but the company I work for is in the US. And it is currently the Independence Day week over there. So they're giving us the whole week off. And I will take advantage of this week to go to as many events as I can and see what it's going to be like. I'm still using my Leona deck. I'm finding ways to improve it. I don't really plan on replacing Leona with a different legend as of right now because I'm really enjoying the deck. It's been a rough few games if you've seen my other video. Currently, I am 0 wins, 5 losses, 2 draws for my whole record since I had my first 2 events just a couple of days ago. We'll see how that's going to be like for the end of this week. So that's a goal for this video. We'll go to as many events. Hopefully, get some wins. If I don't get more than one, that's fine. As long as I get a win, I guess I'll take it. But ideally, we're gonna get more than one win. So yeah, okay. We're gonna go ahead and go to the first event of the week. Going to a mall today, and I'll see you when I get there. All right. So I just got home. I couldn't record the whole thing because the camera died midway. I tried recording gameplay. This time around, the games were, still not in my favor. I did lose for the first game. I was playing against a player that was playing Vex, and I lost 0-2. It wasn't really that close. If I remember correctly, I think I was only able to score 3 or maximum 4 points for both games. So it was rough. The second round of games, I was playing against a set deck, which is really interesting because he was playing set with Garen and tokens. So it was a deck that was trying to get lots of tokens in, lots of recruits in, and then trying to buff all of them. It was really interesting, the buff of that Garen gives the recruits on top of the buff that set gets from the buffs of the other units. So it was really interesting deck, really interesting game. The first game we had, I won. It was, I think, 8-5 or 6, remember correctly. And then the second game, I lost. So he won 8-, if I remember correctly, I was like 4. We couldn't play a game 3 because it went overtime. I realized that this type of deck, a whole deck like Leona, does take a lot longer compared to other playstyles for other decks generally, because when I was playing, I noticed that other people were done and we were still in our second game, or I think the second game was still not even close to being done. I noticed this with my other games as well before. So I think that's just how it goes with a whole deck. But we did get 1 win today, so that's good. Okay, second event of the week. This is second open play that I'm going to. But before we go there, I want to talk a little bit about my Leona deck, because I realized I never really talked about it and you might not know what the deck is. So I'm playing Leona Legend, obviously, with Leona Determined as my chosen champion. So I built this deck around Stunning, around Leona, and Vex. Vex Mocking, where if you stun a unit, Vex can go straight to the battlefield where you stun the unit. So there are some really fun combos I can do with this, especially with Zenith Blade, where if you do Zenith Blade, because I have 2 Zenith Blades, it will let you stun an enemy unit. You can choose one champion to go to where the enemy unit is, and then I could pick Leona. Leona will go to that battlefield, and from what I understand, Leona should. No one has called me out for this, so I think it's um, probably legal. So Leona can go to that battlefield, considered to be attacking that unit. If I am attacking, so Leona can trigger a stun again, so I can stun two enemies, and then that will let me move Vex to where that uh, battlefield is. So it's a really fun combo. You can pull off some crazy combos where if you have, for example, Vex and Leona on one battlefield, and then your enemy attacks with a huge unit or a big group of units, and no matter what you do, you're probably gonna lose. What I like doing is using Zenith Blade, move Leona to the other battlefield if there are enemy units there, and then that will bring along Vex, and it will save both of them. Hopefully, that other battlefield is a lot weaker and better for me. So I'll win that battlefield, so which is really fun. That's really, I think it's a crazy combo. I really enjoy whenever I am able to pull that off. But the problem is you can't really pull that off that often because this deck is very, yeah, I mean, like, I'm not exaggerating. It's so freaking expensive. You're paying power for Vex, for Leona, for a lot of your cards that are defensive, like Defy, not so fast. If you're trying to hide back offs or hidden blades, if you're using those, it's a very expensive deck. That's why I've been using Soaring Scout to channel exhausted units when it dies. But it's been a really rough past 3 events I've been to. It's really power hungry. It's really hard. So for today, I am changing it up a little bit. Actually, not a little bit, kind of a lot. Because I do have Fioras here. So Fiora, I'm trying to shift my focus on Fiora being the carry. I have 3 Fioras, and then I replaced the 3 Vex Mocking with, for now, Munch, which is a card where it's a unit. If you stun an enemy, you can pay for the energy less 2. So it's a 6 energy unit. It goes down to 4, and it plays ready. So I'm using that to replace Vex. See if that's gonna make it a little better. It's gonna be less power hungry. But I think ideally, maybe find a better unit to replace Munch, which is, I think, ideally right now, from looking at the best of Leona deck, is probably an Irelia, where if you pick or play Irelia, you can add 1 Might Irelia that turn. But I don't have Aurelius, so we'll see how this event's gonna play out. Maybe we'll see if it's gonna be better or worse than with Vex. It's gonna be a huge shift in my focus on Vex being the carry, and focus more on Fiora, Munch as a support, and then obviously Leona for the stuns. So we'll see how this one turns out. All right, so we finished 2 games today. Actually, currently record is a 1-2-0. So 1 win, 2 loss, but not really that happy with the win because there were 7 of us. So I got 1 free game because I wasn't matched with anyone. I lost twice. The win, it's not, obviously I'm not gonna count that, but the 2 games were actually really close. The first one was against Lilia, so we went 7-2. 8, I lost. It was really close. The matchup wasn't too bad. The second one was against an Ez. I had a bad start actually. I wasn't able to pick up most of my 2 costs. I only had 2 units, I think 3 units at like turn 4 or turn 5. So it was a really bad game. You know, that game was just rough. I was able to hold for 6 points, but that was because the S player was just holding his units in base because he didn't really had anything to kill my units with his units. He was just using spells. He was using Bewitching Spirit to discard my cards. He was using Starcross to return my units to my hand. Cards that deal damage to kill my units. He didn't kill, and that's what I think as actually just does. So that game I think would have gotten a whole lot better if I had my units. But I would say for these 2 games, is that I don't know, I'm not sure if it felt close just because the matchup is not too bad for me, like the Lilia and Ezreal matchup, or I think it also did kind of help. I would say, just my opinion, speculation is just because I wasn't using a power hungry deck, I was able to use most of my power to pay for the spells that I had, like Defy, hiding cards like for back off, Hidden Blade. I was able to actually defend and hold a lot better because I had enough runes to be defensive. So I think we're gonna stick with this. Right now, I might, I think stick with Monch. I'll probably replace my 2 Thwonks with 2 Prisons. See how that plays out. That will let me have Monch ready and cost 2 less, and actually be, I think, a decent unit for this deck. So right now, not so bad. I lost 2 games, but they were both really close. So my goal is tomorrow. I'll be playing again. This is probably my last event for this week because I have other stuff to do. So tomorrow I'll have my event. I will continue to have this deck, not play Vex, have Monch and Fiora to be my carry, and then replace my 2 Thwonks with Rude Prison, and hopefully maybe have at least one actual legitimate win tomorrow in tomorrow's event. Okay, so I'll see you for tomorrow's game, the last event of the week. All right, last event of this video, actually, probably. All right. All right, so I'm on my way to the 3rd event of the week, possibly the last. And I made just some changes for the deck. I'll be meeting up someone there. I'll be buying 1 Zonias, 1 Rune Prison, 1 Sona. And the Zonya, because I bought a Zonya last night, mid-open play. Someone opened the pack, got the Zonias, I bought it from them. I'm going to have my 2nd Zonias today. That will replace the 2 BF swords that aren't usually too useful for my games. So I'll be replacing the 2 BF swords with 2 Zonias. I'll be replacing I had 2 Thwonks on my deck, replacing those with Rune Prison, because that will synergize better with Monch because of how Thwonk works. Thwonk you can only stun units that are attacking. So with Rune Prison, I can stun a unit even without like a showdown happening. So before on my turn, I can stun an enemy unit, put down Thwonk for 4 cost, and have him readied. So that synergizes better with my deck. And a Sona, which will replace, I think, 1 Monch. I think it's either possibly 1 Monch or one of my other 2 costs, my 2 drops. So that will make, hopefully, my deck more consistent because I will have 2 Sonas. And Sona lets me play my counter spells, my reaction spells more often because I am going to have the resources I need to actually play them. So a little bit more motivation. I will try to get at least just 1 just one win. I really hope like a legitimate one because last night it was just an automatic win because we didn't have enough players, so I didn't have to play anyone for my last game. Let's see what this is gonna be like. It is a Nexus night, so maybe a little bit more competitive than the other ones that I've been to this week. But hopefully we'll end the video and the week with a bang, with at least just one win. All right, I'll see you there. All right, so we finished tournament today. The Nexus night, there were 15 people. Finished sixth, which is um, an insane game for me. Current Faust coming in here to correct something because actually my sanding would be so much better if the recording was done correctly. Sadly, it wasn't. I won 2 games, tied 1 game. So I was supposed to go 2-0-1. But I reported it to the organizer because they were the one recording the standings and they input it wrong. Sadly, I did not double check. I did not proactively check the record and I didn't know only up until after the event that they actually showed that I won 1 game and 2 of my games were tied. So if it was correct where I went 2-0-1, I would actually be third, maybe second, depending on how the standings is actually calculated. I'm not sure. But I would have been at least a third here, which is really sad knowing this afterwards. But that didn't take away the fact that I did win 2 games for this Nexus night. So this is just a note for other people who are playing their Nexus nights to always be proactive in checking your record. Maybe you input it incorrectly, maybe your opponent input it correctly, but always be proactive in making sure that the record is done correctly. And if there was any mistake, you talk to the organizer and make sure they fix it as soon as possible so that you don't have any issues moving forward during that event. I didn't just get one win. I got 2 wins today, 1 draw. The very first game was against Nazir. I went 2-0. We won that one. Second game, another Azir. Won the first game. Second game was draw. So I won that overall. And then third and last game was against a Vex. And that was Vex player won the first game. Second game went to overtime. I won that game. So that game was a draw. So 2 wins, 1 draw. And overall, just in terms of rounds, I won 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it was we did it. It was just so much better without the Vex mocking because it was so much more consistent. I wasn't power hungry. The deck wasn't power hungry. I wasn't running out of runes all too much. It was still kind of power hungry because of all of the units, all the spells that I was using, all the units. Sono cost 1 power. Zenith Blade cost 2 power. Leona cost 1 power. And a lot of my counter spells cost a power. Like Not So Fast. I had obviously Charm, the defensive spells that I had. Charm, and then my hidden cards, which I had a lot. I think I've gotten to a point where my deck is really is a lot more consistent than before because I was losing so many of my games. Now it's just a contention of is Monch good? Would Irelia be better? Because Irelia Green is also a common uh, unit for Leona, especially for the best of Leonas, if you see them. So, really good experience this week. I had the whole week off because the company gave us a whole week off for the US Independence Day. So, for the next weeks, it's just about seeing how much time I actually have when I start working again. But I'll still go to the events, Nexus Nights, open plays whenever I can. Maybe on the weekends. I'm not sure about the weekdays. So insane week, really fun. If you enjoyed this type of content, please leave a like, comment down below if you like it, if you had any suggestions for my deck, and uh, subscribe if you do enjoy this content. If you don't, it's fine. Leave a like if you do, and I'll see you next time. Peace. Bye bye.